So Rory's been talking to us about all kinds of business siren stuff and how to take your serenity into the workplace. And something that I wanted to get Rory's take on involves the whole authenticity piece. Because this goes into everything work. If we're really honest, and we can talk about this from an artistic standpoint and how it's so radical, and that the magic of what gives us the kind of relationships we want, no matter what walk of life that we're in. If we can get down to that very honest authenticity place, which also involves quite a bit of vulnerability, the doors open up for us to make profound connections. So I wanted to ask Rory about unconventional relationships. I've shared some of my background, and this kind of in like with the whole existential love crises, where what is it life after? What kind of relationship dynamic are we going to have to deal with? And like polygamy, the patriarchy, we talk about, these are kind of really, really, really intense topics. And yet more and more people are in the modern age are really entertaining unconventional relationships. So this is, I would say, really on point right now. So I don't know what comes up for you first, Rory. I'm just really eager to hear you talk.
I have lots of ideas. Okay, so unconventional relationships.
Yeah.
The only thing that I have personally to add about that is, if I had felt less good girly, if I had felt less constrained, and even though I was an actress and had traveled wildly, I traveled by myself all over Europe. I had some amazing experiences in the world, but I was a totally locked in good girl in terms of sexuality and conventionality on every single level of my life. And yet sex became hugely important to me. I was furiously, so high levelly focused on sexuality. And this has lasted pretty much my whole life in different levels as a form of connecting for me, because I had difficulty in those days connecting on the level that, I naturally connect on now. I was not a real person. I was a mechanical person. I was talking from my head. I had a good girl program going on. I had my conventional program going on in every part of my body. And I cared too much how people responded to me. Being liked and approval was just so huge for me that it was, if you can imagine, if I'm always being a fake person, how could I ever really feel like I was connecting with anybody? But sex actually made me feel this one thing: the guy liked me. And that is not true. They don't have to like you to want to have sex with you, but I took sex as, at least he finds me attractive. At least he wants my body. He wants to touch me. I accepted that right away from the first time that I ever actually got into a sexual experience, which was pretty much after I graduated college and went to Europe on my own. And that's when, I broke loose of convention. And then I started confusing sexuality with relationship. And I have a feeling so many women out there are still doing that, confusing sexuality, even a great sexual experience, a great connected sexual experience, with that being a connection, a relationship connection. And it's not. It's because in that moment of sexuality, everybody is more themselves. If I expected to have an orgasm, to have a great time, which for some reason I was into, that I was okay with that. I was able to let go enough for that to happen. That was my language. That was my love language at that time. I could be a sexy girl and respond. It took me a while to open up to that, but that was it. That was my love language of connection. So, unconventional, I would call a relationship where you and a man have a relationship and you also have another boyfriend because you've been circular dating and you really don't want to give him up, and you introduce them to each other, and pretty soon you are a threesome. I know people who have this. I know women who have two guys and they all live together. And after a while, one drifts away and the couple stays because one has a stronger connection. She has a stronger connection with one man than with the other. That was like a dream, and I think it still is. What woman does not want 10 men around her? I mean, really, fetching and carrying and touching, and I mean, really. So how come? And we're multi-orgasmic. We can do all kinds of things. We can go all night. How come it turned around so that men have harems? How come it turned around that one man would be with 3 women or 10 women or 12 women? And that is the issue for me. So there are many forms of unconventional relationship. And I think that we have a coach. And Mariah Gray, who is very familiar with an unconventional relationship that involves 3 or 4 people in a very steady family situation. She's now in a deep relationship with a man, and that is a single relationship, but her experiences would help you all understand major things: jealousy, how to handle jealousy. Because once you learn how to handle jealousy in an actual sexually fluid relationship with several people, you can handle jealousy with anybody. You no longer have that, because you learn how to actually love this other person, this other man, this other woman. So the thing about any kind of unconventional relationship, whether it's a man with several women or whether it's one of my close friends in Los Angeles, was a totally polyamory person. Her website, everything about it. She had a group of friends and everybody slept with everybody. She had, I think, a main guy she lived with, and there was another guy who came by, and a young guy, a group, and then we would go, I went to parties with them, and made another girl, a friend, a therapist who I deeply respected and became a friend. And we were just all dancing around with everybody. We were just all, it was totally, you could do that, and if people went off in the corner, they could. And it was like, I met women who were totally okay with their man making out with another woman. Now, that is something I can't even fathom. Can you? Probably not. So I am not good at sharing. I let my wonderful husband know that the day he said he wanted to move in and we wanted a relationship. I said, you know what? I know you have old girlfriends who are friends. I've been through that. First husband, I had a round table full of old girlfriends who were my friends. Not good at that. Don't want to do that anymore. So no lunches with them. Work, that's different. You go out to work, dinner, or something like that. But otherwise, I'm always along. I'm always there. I don't even care who the woman was. I just don't share well. But if you're going to have an unconventional relationship, you need to be a person who can share well. So it requires, if you want to be in a relationship with a man who has several women, then, I'll refer you to that great series, Big Love, where those women really cared for each other. It was not a sexual relationship between the women, just the man would go from room to room, house to house, and everybody felt taken care of, and there were kids everywhere. And all the women were best friends, sisters, literally sisters. And that is a whole different kind of thing. If that appeals to you, that sounds like a great experience. Having close women and actually accepting that they are all sexually involved with your man and that you were all equally loved. That is a huge growth question. Polyamory, you never really know where your man is going to be at any given time. And you really don't ask, because part of the deal is whatever. It's like, we can go to a party and I can ask that man to come home with me. I don't even have to make him palatable to you, except that I love you and we are in a conscious relationship where if I bring some strange man home, that doesn't work. That is one of the rules of polyamory. Everybody has to be comfortable. Everybody has to approve, and most people in polyamory are either just straight or bisexual and can accept all the different kinds of pairing and orgy and different groups and stuff. Well, to me, that's heaven. The whole concept of it is heavenly. And yet I am not built for it. I haven't moved enough out of my I can't share well to, well, on the other hand, if my husband brought me into a room where there were men and women and said, go for it, honey, and said, this is my dream for you to have a great time with everybody in the room. And I'll be there too, but I won't touch anybody else, I promise. Awesome. And something that is not so far off these days. You could actually get that. They're swinging everywhere. There's, I was very interested in learning about all of this, but I was never really open to exploring it to the depth that my imagination would have liked it. But I was close enough to being interested that, I knew that I could, if I felt like it wouldn't damage my relationship. So now we're back to the same thing. My relationship with my husband was so primary to me that I just knew that unless he threw me at somebody, which, wasn't going to happen, a woman, yes, throw me at a woman, then I could get involved there if I wanted to. And if I thought she was safe and comfortable, I mean, all that is dream imagination to me. And I really would like to pass on to you, have no constraints, work on those constraints, because these days you never know what kind of a relationship is really what you're meant for. I know so many people who are really gay or bisexual, but never allow themselves to go there. And what that would do is allow you to not shut down around all this stuff. Does that make sense?
What kind of relationship are we really made for? And
everybody's different. Let me
Yeah.
say one more thing and then I'll turn it back over to you. Is the main thing you all have to really think about is if you're thinking about that, and these days I'm sure most people are very fluid in college and high school and sleep with a lot of men and women, and it's part of the thing. It wasn't in my years, but it's a part of the thing. Go watch the TV show Sex Education. I mean, everything goes. And if you can open up with that, obviously if you have strong religious ideas, that's not going to work for you. But the point of it is you always have to feel well cared for, well loved. And if any situation starts to feel uncomfortable for you, and you start to feel like you're being pushed in a direction that doesn't quite feel right, like my husband pushed me to somebody, which he never would do, but in my imagination, that would make it okay, right? If I got pushed, it would make it okay, right? I would have permission. But if you ever feel, a lot of women in my exploration that I did do, that I talked to, were being pushed into directions they weren't comfortable with. And just because they were at a vacation spot, and you don't want to do that. I mean, there's a difference between sitting around naked, and kissing your husband and actually having sex in the pool with other people. Those are two whole different spheres. And you may be okay for the, hang out with your guy in a really liberal place. You have to feel good. If you ever feel like you're being pushed, or you don't feel good with him, or you feel at any time like second fiddle instead of first, something's wrong. And that's why it's so important for us to know, what we're picking up and what we feel and what we sense. Okay, now, Natalina, please go.
At the core of this, a really important siren skill that we learn to come back to what we feel. Now, I'm not going to say this is super easy, but it is simple enough on paper where, we're feeling our feelings, we're feeling what we feel, we're sinking down into whatever that feeling is. Often enough for me, like I find myself on the agitation train or the irritation train or the anger train and just recent observations is part of that is excitement. Some of that is, it's not entirely just anger. Some of it's just fear and the unknown. That's part of what's going on here. But to come back to these skills, one part of it is just the awareness of what we are feeling. If you're not feeling safe, if you're not feeling heard, if you're in a position where your partner is pushing you to explore something or flat out telling you, this is what I'm going to do. I have big feelings for this other person and you're feeling kind of on the outer orbit. Like that's a scary, very lonely place. And so, I mean, I'm feeling what I feel and I'm kind of in this place of what am I needing and feeling not that connection from your partner. What can you do in this space?
This just sounds, when we listen to what you just said, it also sounds like a happily married woman whose husband has emotional connections to women at work or old friends or new friends. In other words, you could know that he's totally faithful to you and yet still feel like you're on the periphery of his interest. Ooh, that was a great thing. On the periphery of his interest. Think about that. Where in your relationship do you feel on the periphery, on the outside of his interest? It could be sports. It could be his work. We have accepted tolerating that. However, when it's a woman that he's constantly connecting with at work or at his gym or his body worker or his gym partner or his tennis partner or any of those things that makes you feel on the periphery of his interest, and you feel that the more primary, more central interest that he is feeling is connected to another woman, or in some cases, another man, a real bromance. That is what you're talking about, Natalina. And I think that regardless of what kind of conventional or unconventional relationship you're in, feeling that you're on the periphery or somehow on the back burner, that somehow you're the safe spot that he comes back to. You're like home base. You're like home base, but he really wants to be at third base and second base and in the outfield. But he always can come back to home base. These are really feelings that so many women that we know in the island and that we know in all of Siren School, that we know just from our lives in general, exist so strongly in our own experiences that there is at this moment somebody else who has a stronger, more central interest in his life than ours, and that we're the comfort food. We're the comfort food. They're the really 5-star food somewhere in his mind. As soon as you start thinking that, you get jealous of the other person when really it has nothing to do with the other person. So here's what I tell you, you do, and I've been saying this to women forever whose husbands seem to be interested in other women or even their family members, a sister that they're just glued to. I used to date a man for almost 2 years. This is how stupid and foolish and crazy I was. I dated a man for at least a year, maybe more than that. We had a great sexual connection. It was amazing. And I knew him, and he was really handsome. And his ex-wife was his primary focus. No kids. She just needed him. She was vulnerable. She was like, help, I can't find my key to the house. And he would just go. It was like she was it wherever we were. And we were all in the same acting community, which a lot of you know, work community, a friends community. We were in that same place. Now, I could never say anything about it because, number one, he wasn't doing anything with her. It was just a place he was in that I felt, I knew it wasn't me, it was her. And that I knew, well, then if it's her and not me, then it's definitely going to be some other woman. I'm in the middle of this. I'm the comfort food right now. And the second reason is because he called me a friend. He said, we're friends. He introduced me as my friend, not my girlfriend. I wasn't listening to him. I said, oh, we can't have this good and close a relationship and traveling if he feels that way. So that's why I'm really, and this is true for so many women, just not believing him. So what you want to do is, number one, fall in love with the other woman. First thing, that's the weirdest thing anybody ever said to you, probably. If you think his primary interest is a different woman, stop fighting her, stop feeling jealous. Don't stop feeling jealous. Feel the jealousy, completely feel the jealousy, but stop the fight, stop the battle. Instead, look at her, put her in front of you, fall in love with her. Oh, you must have something for him that is not part of my makeup. Wonder what that is. And whoa, that probably means he's not right for me. Oh my gosh. Didn't even occur to me. This is match wise, it has nothing to do with your qualities. And I want to tell you, if I'd stayed with that guy, I would have been in a hole. I never would have been Rori Ray. I never would have done anything. I would have been in this hole of my being. He was nowhere near a match for me, not even close in a mental, emotional, psychological, intellectual space. Nothing like that. Not even close. And my husband is my intellectual equal, if not my superior. So having a husband who is at least as smart as you is a very rare thing these days, I want to tell you. More women are making do with men's with very abraded intellects, when the women are smart as smart as everything. And so I want you to fall in love with her. She's not the cause. She's the messenger. She's not the problem. She's your messenger. She's your guru. She's the person giving you the information you need. People want to call her and say, stay away from my husband. And people want to fall in love with her. I love her to death. None of this is her fault. Yes. And maybe it is. Maybe she's a terrible person. Maybe she's a real bitch. Maybe she doesn't give a flying anything about you and just wants to get this man away from you because she wants. There are millions of reasons that are not good why you should not like her, but I still want you to fall in love with her. Doesn't mean you have to like her. Just fall in love with her. It's like, she is my messenger right now, telling me how I feel is right. I'm sane. I feel right. And then I want you to learn to speak to him from that place, which is, hi, honey. I really noticed that there's a strong wave of feeling I feel around Geraldine. What do you mean? Nothing's happening. I'm not going anywhere. That's what he says. Yeah, I know that. I trust you completely. I just have this strong feeling that maybe she's more of a match for you than I am, that maybe she's more right for you, and I'm feeling really terrible. Is there some way that you can make me feel better about that? Or are we wrong for each other? Or what's going on? Yeah, that's hard, right? I can see by your face.
Oh,
But you
yeah.
got to. And practice it at first with yourself, practice it with your coaches. That's what we're here for. We got urgent care now, get a quick, inexpensive appointment with a great coach and talk it through with her and practice the scripting. Not what your coach isn't going to put words in your mouth from her. That is what is distinct about the Rori Ray method of coaching. She's not going to give you what she would say. She's going to pull from your words and help you phrase it in a way that he can hear. Because if he can't hear you, if he just gets defensive all the time, it's like, you're stuck in quicksand, literally. And that's what most of us are, stuck in quicksand. We can't get ourselves heard because we're constantly triggering him to his defensive stuff. And if he has feelings for another woman in any measure, I can guarantee you 100% he feels guilty about it. He knows it's not right, and he knows it's not making you feel good, and he feels guilty. And the second you trigger a man's guilt, you're like in defensive hell. I love doing these experiences, Natalina, with you, because I can talk about stuff I can't talk about, like on my channels and stuff. This is amazing. So that's it. We're being jealous. Jealousy is blocking you from getting the best life you deserve. So the jealousy is just in your way. So feel it and go, whoa, I'm feeling this for a reason. And then you go deeper into all this. You find a way to talk to him. You find a way to fall in love with her. And then you circular date like mad. So I think those are 3 steps. Fall in love with her, talk to him, circular date like mad. And if we're going to tie this together with unconventional relationships, if you circular date like mad and you meet a guy you want to spend time with, bravo to you. You meet a guy you actually want to touch and kiss, bravo to you. Now you have a full discussion with your man, right? Oh, by the way, honey, I got to tell you, I met somebody. And I understand how, and what a conversation you can have then. And then you get choices, you get to make decisions, you get to move around in your life. You're not stuck anymore.
That's a huge siren, if we want to call it a mindset, because we're trying to get our minds into our bodies expanded. But like that way of thinking that we're making more options. And to go back to when we're feeling afraid, when we're feeling irritated, when we're feeling afraid of our irritation.
That was great.
Yeah, we can get so we can feel so stuck in the mud. We can feel really stuck in that place. And if we can slather ourselves with the love and go, okay, I know, even though right now I don't feel like I've got a ton of options, they're there. And I'm just going to slog through the chocolate and the love of all of this and see what doors open first.
Yes.
Just a little bitty crack. I love it so much. Thank you so much, Rori.
That was such an awesome topic, Natalina. I really look forward to all the comments and everything that comes up for you if you've heard this, because it's not talked about very much. And we can go deeper. If you want to give your own individual situation, we will deal with it. Bye-bye, sweetie. Thank you, Natalina. Thank you all.